time to answer some questions. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mobile Club Maker. I'm AJ, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Once again, it's time for some questions and answers. These are questions that people have left down in the comment sections that I feel like are probably worth revisiting and sort of sharing to a wider audience than just who might be looking in the comments. So today we've got 3 different questions related to lie angle, and we also have one question related to weight. So let's get started. Okay, so our first question is about lie angle. Comes from Brent. He says, I've been reading that a straight up and down line is less important than the desired ball flight. It's okay for the club to be a little flat or upright, not more than a few degrees, if the flight is what you are looking for. Brent. So, different people are going to have different viewpoints on this. I, in general, like to sort of default to having a lie angle that is neutral and even in where it should be. But I do understand, and it is completely valid, that you can sort of alter ball flight using lie angle. This is nothing new. This is something that club manufacturers have been doing for a long time. And you will see if you look at a set of more game improvement style clubs, they will often have more upright lie angles, trying to basically close the face a little bit more and combat slices or fades, which is what the majority of golfers have as their swing fault. So it's something that's done all the time already. So yes, you can do it that way. You can, basically look and say, well, if I am constantly hitting a fade, maybe having that lie angle a degree or two more upright makes sense, or vice versa. If I'm hitting a hook or a draw that's a little bit too much, well, I can flatten it out a little bit and then once again have a little bit more neutral ball flight. Yes, you can do that. Of course, you could also do the very same thing just by opening or closing the club face a little bit at setup. So again, there's different ways you can do it, but yes, it is true. If you want to, you can sort of play around with the lie angle a little to see if you can alter your ball flight and get it where you want it to be. Now that being said, I wouldn't do more than maybe a degree or two as far as the lie angle. I would not want 3 or 4 degrees off of where you should be just to combat some sort of swing flaw, because at that point you're getting into a pretty aggressive amount of lie angle inconsistency. And if you're playing on a completely flat lie, that may be fine. But if all of a sudden you find yourself on a side hill line, you've got an artificially upright golf club and you're on a side hill line like this, well, when you come into this, it is going to be very difficult to not have that heel drag and shut that club face down. So again, if you want to do this, I would say a degree or 2 is fine, but I wouldn't go more than that. I think more than that is really, either an indication that you should probably be working on your swing, or just altering your setup a little bit as far as maybe closing the club face a little at setup or opening the club face a little at setup is going to give you more, maybe not more consistent results, but the results you're looking for, but at the same time not limit you when it comes to playing off of different kinds of lies when they appear in your game, when they become necessary. Okay, second question. This is from Zach, and I can't remember what video this actually came out of the comments of, but he says, is there any way to check the loft angles without special equipment? Zach. And if you haven't already seen it, I did a video specifically addressing this question probably about 6 months back. I will leave a link to that video down in the description below so you can check that out. But you can actually check your lie angles and your lofts with this, with your smartphone. Very simply, and I'm not going to go through the whole process. If you want to see it, I would say check out the video again down in the description. But if you go into your cell phone and pick up on in this case on an iPhone, you can find a measuring device, which has both a ruler and a level. And the level looks like this. So if I tilt it, it gives you those numbers. And basically, all you have to do at that point is get your club set up in a neutral position so you know that the club is, in this case, perfectly straight up and down like this. And you can basically just lay the phone across the face, down the face like this, and get a measurement of that lie angle or that loft. You can do it for either one. If we're talking about lie angle, well, then you would want to basically have the head sitting perfectly flat on the ground and put it up against the shaft. If we were talking about the lofts, then you would want to have the shaft perfectly straight up and down like this and put the phone sitting right, leaning down the face like this. So you don't need a loft lie gauge, an expensive piece of equipment necessarily. Not that a cell phone isn't expensive, but you already have one probably. And this will give you what I found to be, and again, check out the video, but I found the results to be pretty darn good for, what it is. So, okay, so third question today is from Ruben. And this was posted in one of my club building videos that I did, where I basically went through the whole process of building a set of clubs. And he asks, my main question is this: do they all have the same amount added to them, or do they vary from club to club? Did you add 4 grams to all of them? So what he's referring to are basically the little brass tip weights that you slide inside the shaft when you are putting together golf clubs to try and balance them out and get consistent weight and consistent swing weight. And what he's asking is, are all the clubs in a set going to get the same amount of weight? So if you were trying to hit, a D2 swing weight based off of a certain head with a certain shaft weight at a certain length with a certain grip, do you consistently add the same amount of weight to every club so that you get the same result? And the simple answer is maybe. It's really going to be golf club dependent. So different sets, different, it's not even just brands or different models, but just depending on the set of golf clubs that you're working with. In some cases, the weights are going to be very consistent, having sort of that 7-gram increment between them, which is what you want to have consistent swing weight. Some of them will be very consistent, and sometimes you'll get sets where the weights are a little bit more all over the place. So if they are, that means that you may not be able to just add, say, 4 grams to every single club head to get a consistent result. You may end up having, and I've had to do this numerous times, in some cases, one club you might not add any weight to, and the next club in the set you might add 6 grams to, and the next club in the set you might add 4 grams to. So it can be a bit of a roller coaster when you're trying to figure that out. You really need to have either a swing weight scale or a gram scale so that you can measure all the head weights to see how much weight you're going to need, because you can't just hope that, because it's a set of whatever irons, 4 through pitching wedge, that they're all going to need the same amount of weight. Beyond that, if you have some sort of mixed set or hybrid set, then it's definitely going to be something you're going to need to, play around with and basically assume that you're going to have to add different weights to different heads, because, you may have, say, 4, 5, and 6 irons in a more cavity back style head, and then the rest of the clubs in a more slimmer profiled, players style head. And if you have that, chances are those swing weights are not going to be consistently, the same right across the board. So I would say, get a swing weight scale, get a gram scale, and you're just going to have to check and see where it goes. Because again, depending on what clubs you're working with, if you have, some sort of hybrid set, or even if you just have one set, but, the tolerances can be different from set to set. So you just have to measure it, see what it comes out to, and then add the appropriate amount of weight to get everything level, get consistent swing weights across the board. Final question today. This is again going to be one more lie angle question, and this is from Professor ABR. He asks, if you shorten a club, at what point do you have to adjust the lie angle, and by how much? Is there a formula for that? So what this is basically referring to is when you change the length of a club, there is sort of a correlation that happens with the lie angle. Now, there are a couple assumptions you have to make to have this actually work out correctly. But the basic rule is for every ½ inch that you change the length of the club, that's going to be a 1 degree lie angle change. So for every ½ inch you make the club longer, that's going to make the lie angle play 1 degree more upright. So if you add 1 inch of length to the butt end of the club, that is going to make the club play 2 degrees more upright. Likewise, if you shorten the club for every ½ inch, that's going to make the club play more flat. Now, I said that this requires a pretty big assumption. And the assumption is that regardless of what you're doing when you shorten or lengthen the club, that you are not going to change your setup, your posture, or your basically your dynamic impact position, that being what your body looks like when you make contact with the ball. And the reason that's important is because if you don't change anything and the only change is in the length, well, then the basic geometry works. And so when you make that half-inch change, the lie angle basically changes around 1 degree. However, if you have a longer club and all of a sudden you start standing more upright, your posture changes, and when you actually hit the ball, you're more upright than you were before, then these rules aren't really going to work. And likewise, if you shorten the club and you all of a sudden are sort of, more squatted down, we'll say, then again, these half-inch to 1 degree relationship is not going to work out quite the same. So there is a rule for it, but it does require you to make an assumption, or it requires the golfer to be consistent in their setup and in their dynamic impact position, which is not always the case, because when you start changing the length of the golf club, it will often result in you sort of changing how you stand, how you set up to the golf ball. So hopefully that answers that question. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go down below, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon to be alerted when I post new videos. I am now on Patreon. You can find me at AJ Golf. I'm also on Instagram at Mobile Club Maker, and we will see you next time. Bye.